All right, let's dive into one of the most important documents in American history, the Bill of Rights. Now, this isn't just some dusty old piece of paper. It has a massive impact on how the country is run today, and it all boils down to what we, the people, actually understand about the protections we have. So let's get right into it.
I want to kick things off with a question that really gets to the absolute heart of this whole thing. Does the government give you the right to speak your mind? Just, think about that for a second. The answer, which might actually surprise you, is a big, loud no. The Bill of Rights doesn't grant you a single thing. These liberties, they already belong to you. And honestly, if you take only one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be that. So what the Bill of Rights actually does is put on the record the sacred individual rights that the government is forbidden to touch. It's basically a list of negative rights, not granting powers, but restricting government from messing with the rights you were born with. Okay, so let's dig into that philosophy a little more. It's all about how power is set up. You've got the Constitution, and then you've got the Bill of Rights. They're a team, for sure, but they do two totally different jobs.
This is such a great way to think about it. The Constitution, that's the government's how-to manual. It builds the machine. But the Bill of Rights, that's the do-not list. It's the big red stop sign telling that powerful machine exactly what it is not allowed to do to you.
So, let's get to the most famous part of that do-not list, the First Amendment. And here's the thing, it's not just one right. It's a whole package of 5 essential freedoms. And believe me, it was put first for a very, very good reason. As you can see, the First Amendment is this bundle of 5 distinct rights. You've got freedom of religion, speech, the press, the right to peacefully assemble, and the right to petition the government. Let's break down what that really means. So the whole point of protecting speech and the press is to keep the exchange of ideas totally open. The government has zero authority to shut you down, even if your ideas are offensive or disrespectful or, let's be honest, just plain dumb. This is what protects our ability to have a real conversation and figure out the best way forward. Now, that freedom isn't a total free-for-all. There are some very specific legal lines you can't cross. The government can step in for things like libel. That's when you knowingly publish lies that hurt someone. Or obscenity, which is language that is just way out of bounds. And this one is key, incitement. That's speech that's going to cause immediate actual violence. Okay, next up are 2 amendments that you really have to think of as a pair. At their core, they were born from a deep fear of a permanent professional army. They were designed to be a direct check on the government's military power. And here it is. This is easily one of the most debated, analyzed, and argued over sentences in American history. And to really get it, you have to look at the world it was written in. See, the founders were terrified of a professional army hanging around during peacetime. They saw it as a huge threat to liberty. Their solution was the militia. And the militia wasn't the army, not even close. Back then, the militia was understood to be the body of the people. Literally, the citizens themselves, armed and ready to defend their freedom from any threat. And flowing right from that same fear is what some people lovingly call America's sleepy little angel, the Third Amendment. It says the government can't just force you to let soldiers live in your house. I mean, this was a huge problem with the British Redcoats. So this amendment is a direct shield protecting your private property from the military. Okay, let's shift gears. What happens if you find yourself accused of a crime? Well, there's a whole chunk of the Bill of Rights that lays out a fair and consistent process for when the government tries to take away your life, liberty, or property. It's these 4 right here, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th Amendments. They work together like a shield. And their order isn't random. They actually follow the logical steps of an encounter with the justice system. It all starts with the 4th. This is your personal privacy shield. The government can't just barge in and search you or your stuff for no reason. In almost every case, they need to get a warrant from a judge, and they have to show probable cause, a solid, reasonable belief that a crime has happened or that they'll find evidence. Then you have the 5th Amendment, which is kind of like a collection of essential protections. First, a grand jury has to indict you for a serious crime. You also can't be tried for the exact same crime twice. You can't be forced to testify against yourself. That's when you hear someone plead the 5th. It also guarantees due process, a fair legal playing field, and says if the government takes your property, they have to pay you a fair price for it. So once you are officially charged, the 6th Amendment kicks in to make sure you get a fair fight. Your trial has to be quick and held in public. You have the right to a jury that's not biased, the right to confront your accusers, and, this is a big one, the right to have a lawyer even if you can't afford to pay for one yourself.
And finally, we have the Eighth Amendment, which deals with the aftermath. It's there to make sure bail isn't set ridiculously high to keep you in jail and that the punishment actually fits the crime. It's our protection against punishments that are just plain cruel, excessive, or barbaric.
The last two amendments, the 9th and 10th, well, think of them as the philosophical grand finale. They're the ones that put the final nail in the coffin on the idea of an all-powerful federal government. They hammer home that its power is limited by default.
The Ninth Amendment is just brilliant. It basically says, hey, this list we just wrote, it's not the whole list. Just because a specific right, like, say, the right to privacy, isn't spelled out here, that doesn't mean you don't have it. It protects all those other fundamental rights that belong to the people.
And the 10th Amendment is the perfect mirror image of the 9th. It flips the script and says that any powers that weren't specifically handed to the federal government in the Constitution, well, they belong to the states or to the people. It drives home the core idea. The federal government can only do what it's explicitly told it can do.
And this brings us right into a huge modern debate. The source material for this explainer argues that this original design has been seriously stretched over time. It makes the point that the federal government is involved in way more of our daily lives than the founders ever imagined, and that this expansion has gone, in the author's own words, way too far. And so that leaves us with the final, biggest question of all. This whole framework was written in 1791 for a world of quill pens and muskets. So how should we apply these core principles to the crazy, digital, globalized world we live in right now? That, right there, is the conversation we're still having today.